Good morning, everyone. When I saw the theme of this conference, I couldn't resist to offer a talk trying to answer the question, are we on the right path? Not by presenting scientific findings, but reflecting on my roughly 30 years of work in the field of marine mammal research and conservation. I feel very honored to be able to share my thoughts with you at the very beginning of this conference. So thanks to Aviat and the organizing committee and all those who made this conference come alive. So please allow me to be philosophical here rather than presenting data. I will be speaking from my heart to your heart rather than from my head to yours. Well, the short answer to the question, are we on the right path, in my eyes is no. And the longer answer has to do with the fact that we as scientists often do not speak from our hearts. My case is pretty straightforward. It has always been my passion and love for cetaceans that drove me, and I'm pretty sure that this is true for many, if not most of you. I give you one citation today, as I have been inspired by our colleague Heike Lotze from Dalhousie University, who wrote this article, Combining Love and Knowledge to Heal the Ocean, which in a way describes in different words what I'm trying to elaborate here. The baseline is that we are in a globally dire situation. Not only marine mammals, but only us as mankind, we are in deep trouble. For many cetacean species and populations, the outlook today seems to be less hopeful than it has ever been. To give you just two examples of conservation efforts I personally have been involved in over the past decades, both from the EU. The first is about harbor porpoises, notably a strictly protected species. They are dying in their thousands every year due to anthropogenic threats. Do we see significant progress in conserving this species? I don't think so, despite international agreements, existing policies, intense research efforts, and a lot of public education by a large number of NGOs. The second example concerns ship strikes. Since I started to get involved in this issue over some 20 years ago, the global number of cetaceans being hit by vessels seems to be ever increasing, making it one of the most prevalent threats these animals have to face today. So what's going wrong, despite all the conservation efforts and the many commitments from the political level, from the industries, from scientists, from virtually everyone? We all would agree that changing our behavior is key, but that seems to be the crux here. Is changing behavior based on better knowledge? We as scientists believe in the concept that more information, more data will lead to better solutions, and in a way that's just our job. But the idea of we need to know more, a credo of the scientific community, today often is even being misused to postpone overdue conservation decisions. I believe this idea has largely failed over the past decades because it is rooted in an even more profound concept, the dominating story of our time, the narrative of separation. Setting us humans apart from nature, considering nature just a place of resources that can and must be exploited, often even perceiving nature as an enemy, while always longing for more, better, bigger, and pursuing the myth of everlasting growth. Tragically, setting ourselves apart from nature also led us to separating ourselves from each other, as communities, nations, races, genders, you name it. That path must come to an end. But how do we get there? All the big crises we are facing today, climate change and sea level rise, marine pollution, biodiversity loss, even the COVID pandemic, and yes, also wars, have something in common. They reflect the way we humans behave as inhabitants of this planet, as a species that believes that it's detached from everything else. In my eyes, all these crises are not causes for the situation we are in, they are all symptoms of an even bigger crisis, a crisis of our consciousness. The famous Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh was an advocate for mindfulness, and he suggested that a mindful attitude will contribute to creating a better world. I believe that we can learn a lot from that philosophy. Mindfulness focuses on the present moment and is based on good balance between mind and heart. It encompasses all facets of our perception, including the intellect, as well as our emotions and beliefs. Thus, it doesn't just scratch the surface, it is looking deeper at the real causes, uncovering the underlying processes, and identifying the ideas, beliefs, and the story our actions are based on. But how can we incorporate mindfulness into marine conservation? Here's what I call the 3 ways of conservation, together with their underlying narratives: traditional, contemporary, mindful. I postulate that we are currently somewhere between A and B, and that we have to get to C to really turn the tide. Obviously, these categories are not separate from each other, rather they are connected and intertwined. This table shall make it a bit more tangible. So here's the 3 categories I was referring to, and I'm going from left to right now. Traditionally, through a mechanistic and data-centric worldview, the focus always has been on species and populations, where population size was everything that matters. Accordingly, managing human behavior as a threat control, as it were, was based on numbers, thresholds, and hard data only. And that is the reality of conservation policies in most countries until today. Nonetheless, there are good indications that an ecosystem-based approach is slowly gaining ground, because we realize that the habitat must be protected together with the species, simply because species and ecosystems cannot be separated from each other. Furthermore, we begin to comprehend that cetaceans and other marine life are critical elements of the marine ecosystems. They fulfill a whole range of ecosystem functions and deliver many ecosystem services to us. It seems that they even can help us combating climate change. And I'm really proud to say that I was co-organizing and co-chairing the first international expert workshop on cetacean ecosystem functioning in the context of the IWC and CMS only last year. The precautionary principle, meanwhile, often is not being applied today, although everybody talks about it. Mindful conservation goes beyond all of this. And this graph is a bit more appropriate, as it is showing that the more mindful conservation efforts are, the more inclusive they become, because they appreciate the complexity of life and its processes, rather than simplifying in a reductionist way. I imagine that more holistic aspects need to be incorporated in our future conservation efforts, and including the integration of traditional knowledge and indigenous wisdom on top of the scientific data and the ecosystem-based approach, recognizing ecosystem functions of marine life and protecting the processes they sustain, valuing uniqueness and holiness of natural places and beings, respecting the animal's individuality and personhood, as well as treasuring the cultural identity of distinct animal communities. In fact, regarding cetaceans, I propose that we should look at them more like the indigenous people of the sea and treat them accordingly. As soon as we are following such lines of thought, our whole relationship with them can become a different story. The overarching guiding principle of mindful conservation is planetary health, that is, One Health. You will have heard about that concept already. We are talking about healing the oceans by healing our relationship with it. Assigning rights to cetaceans, such as the right to live undisturbed in their natural habitat, would demonstrate our respect in a new and more profound way. Letting nature be, letting wilderness rule, pursuing a hands-off approach while relying on the self-healing potential of the seas will be crucial in many places. In other words, we need more no-take zones. These are just a few ideas, and I invite you to develop them further so that we can narrate a new story. To conclude, what I am advocating here is a paradigm shift, a transformation of our collective narrative from separation to connectedness. Science alone is not enough. Policy alone neither. We need wisdom and vision combined with the two to initiate the necessary changes. As conservationists, rather than telling more and more horror stories about the plight of marine mammals, we need to trigger positive emotions. We need to stop fighting, but rather focus on our connection with marine mammals, cherishing the astounding similarities between us and them. To quote Heike Lotze from that article I highlighted before, combining our emotional and rational sides can inspire our thinking and transform our actions in new and creative ways. In order to effect wide-ranging and long-lasting change, love and knowledge need to work together to transform our collective relationship with the ocean. In my eyes, fruitful marine mammal conservation will be possible only on the basis of a profound change of our values and beliefs, and a fundamental change of the societal system we are living in, and the narrative it is based on. I believe that the ECS is one of the most conservation-oriented and open-minded scientific communities. So let's create a new future with an open mind and an open heart. It starts all within ourselves. Thank you very much.